Hello everyone, Wayne from the CERN Earth and Space Center here. In today's video we're going to be taking a closer look at some of the stories in the stars that we can find in our constellations. And this particular story focuses on several different groups of stars. There are about 6 different constellations that make up characters in this particular story. It's all about Perseus and Andromeda. So let's jump in and take a look at that story. So here we are, standing in front of the CERN Earth and Space Center at Triton College in River Grove, Illinois. We have our date set for September the 24th, and our time is set a little bit later than our normal time. We're looking at the sky as it would look around 11 o'clock at night. And that's because we want all of the characters of our story here to be visible in the sky. And if you stay up just a little bit later, till about 11 o'clock, you can see all of them. We are facing towards the west right now, looking at the building. I'll put our direction markers up. So we're facing towards the west, and in order to see all of our characters in our story today, we want to face towards the northeast eastern skies. So we're going to turn ourselves around here almost entirely and look towards the eastern skies. We have a nice bright moon there and some bright stars that we can see. And in order to get everyone in here, I'm going to zoom us out a little bit, give us a little bit wider view of the sky so we can see all of the characters in our story. And this story, one of my favorite stories in the sky, all stems from ancient Greek astronomy, and we are going to see about 6 different constellations in the sky, and each one of those is a character in this one story from a Greek myth. And it all starts off with a very bright, recognizable group of stars who we can see here. This is Cassiopeia the Queen. She was a very beautiful queen. She ruled an area called Ethiopia around ancient Greece in ancient times, along with her husband King Cepheus, who sits right next to her up there in the sky. There he is. So we have the King Cepheus and Queen Cassiopeia. Now, they had a little bit of a problem. That problem was that Cassiopeia was very, very beautiful, but she knew exactly how beautiful she was, and she liked to boast about it. And she made the mistake of claiming that she was even more beautiful than some of the gods themselves. Well, those gods heard that, and they weren't too happy about it. So they all got together and decided they were going to punish Cassiopeia. And to do that, they were going to send a monstrous sea creature known as Cetus to destroy the country of Ethiopia, destroy all of their lands, all of their people, to get back at her for her vanity. Well, they found out about this giant sea monster that was coming for them, and we can see Cetus in the sky as well. He's a little bit harder to spot. The moon is kind of right in the way here. Let me see if I can bring him up. There he is. Right next to the moon, we can see Cetus the sea monster. There he is. So he's coming to destroy Ethiopia. And Cassiopeia and Cepheus, they hear about this, and they freak out, rightfully so, because they don't want their countryside to be destroyed. And so they try and figure out what they can do to stop it. And they can't think of anything, so they go to the oracle, who was an ancient person who would hear from the gods and be able to see the future and make predictions and prophecies. And the oracle told them that the only thing they could do in order to stop Cetus from destroying their countryside was to make a sacrifice, and it had to be something very near and dear to them. So they decided to do that, and in order to save their countryside, and since they're such fantastic parents, they decided to sacrifice their one and only daughter, the Princess Andromeda. Now, Andromeda sits right next to her mom in the sky. You can see her here. We see she's chained up. She was chained to a rock on the seaside, waiting for Cetus, the sea monster, to come and get her. Luckily for her, there was a hero nearby. That is the hero of Perseus the Warrior. And we can see him in the sky right next to Andromeda. He was flying by along with Pegasus, the flying horse, who we can see here. Zoom out just a little bit more, get everybody in there. Perseus was flying by and saw Andromeda chained to a rock on the seaside and decided to figure out what was going on. He had just come from another daring escapade where he had slain Medusa, who was a gorgon, a monster who had snakes for hair. She was so hideous looking that she turned people into stone just by them looking at her. So he had just finished slaying the Medusa, saw Andromeda chained up, and then swooped down and asked, well, what's going on here? Why are you all chained up to this rock. And she explained the whole situation, that she was going to be sacrificed in order to save her country. She had come to peace with it and asked him, please do not interfere. Just let me sacrifice my life so that my people will be saved. Well, Perseus thought, no, she's too beautiful to die, and I can't let this happen. So he hid behind a rock and waited for the sea monster to show up. And as Cetus rose out of the ocean, coming to eat Andromeda, Perseus jumped out from behind the rock, pulled out the head of Medusa, who was still so hideous that Cetus, glancing at it, turned directly into stone. One swift strike of Perseus's sword shattered that stone and destroyed the sea monster Cetus. He freed Andromeda. They got married and lived happily ever after. Now, this is one of my favorite stories in the sky because it uses all of these different areas, all these different constellations in the sky, all these pictures that ancient people came up with to tell this one story. And it really gives you a sense of how people used to sit around outside a nice campfire on a clear, dark night. And there would be someone who would tell the story of Perseus and Andromeda using the stars as his picture book to explain and illustrate the ancient myths. And this gives us a good idea of how that was done. And so it's one of my favorite stories in the sky. And you can see all of them in the sky tonight if you go outside right around 11 o'clock and look right towards the east and northeastern part of the skies. So get out there and take a look at those. Well, thank you everyone for taking the time to learn about the myth of Perseus and Andromeda and how you can find them in our stars. You can see the beautiful painting right behind me depicts this great battle between Cetus, the sea monster, and Perseus as he tries to rescue Andromeda. I hope you really enjoyed this video. It's one of my favorite stories in the sky, and I hope that you remember to get out there and take a look at your nighttime skies and find all these people for yourself. Have a great day.